Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 812, Richard's here and we've got lots to talk about. I'm back and we're just talking about Raspberry Pi and Windows 11 and other stuff with Raspberry Pi as well. And I think Richard's pushing me to get something new, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the latest build of Windows 11, which we've been playing around with. And there's some speculation that I've got on what they're going to do with the rollout of Windows 10 and Windows 11 this year. We'll be talking Goodwood Festival Speed and some of the stuff that Richard saw there and lots more. So let's get straight over to Richard. Richard, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah, back in the shed. Yay. And you're back online. Hooray.
Yeah, I'm back online. You're back in your shed. How long are you isolating for? Another 10-day one, is it?
Yeah, the 10-day thing kicked off today. Unfortunately, yeah. It's unfortunately, I think the kids' class got sent home after some exposure, and that means we're obviously we've got to stay at home for 10 days. So, yeah, all fun and games.
Yeah.
Could be done.
Fantastic.
Got to be done.
Yeah. So I did 10 days as well. It was it wasn't too bad. I kind of locked in my little office and when there's a lot of synthesizers in there, I can just spend, I can lose many an hour in here. That's no problem.
Brilliant.
But it's a bit harder with younger children, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, it's her who's isolating, but we have to. Yeah, we should really stay in the house, and she can't leave the house for a week for 10 days.
Yeah. It's yes, keep finding different things to keep her occupied.
Yeah, Lego's done very well out of me today, I can tell you.
Oh, that's good. Well, we've got plenty of things we can talk about this week. We've got new builds. We've got you had a bit of a trip out. We can talk about that. I want to still mention the computer museums we had our trip to and Raspberry Pi stuff, which you talked about last week. I've been playing with that some more. But first of all, what a brilliant couple of days we had in Cambridge and Milton Keynes at the computer museums a couple of weekends ago. They were so hospitable towards us, and as you mentioned on the show last week, there was no special treatment, so we didn't get behind the scenes or COVID secure, everybody chucked out type of tour. We were just paying punters like you would be if you went, and it was fantastic.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, it was basically a youth experience, and apart from a few small changes, I would say the experience wasn't changed at all from the before times.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I've posted quite a lot of videos, some short ones and some long ones as well. So the museum in Cambridge, there's some longer videos of that, with one on gaming, one on home micros, one on the office type stuff, and there's some shorter montage and type videos that I did, including our little chat from the car park as well. And I also had a little video as well from the National Museum of Computing as well, including a chat with them and us at the place as well. So it was really fantastic, and I came away pleased to know that our heritage is in good hands. Absolutely,
yeah, and I can't recommend them enough. If you've got even a passing interest, even if you've got no interest at all in this sort of thing, I think anyone would find it very engaging, really engaging. Yeah. So it's not just for the nerds like ourselves. I think anyone who's got will find the content really engaging and a really worthwhile investment of a few hours over a day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, some of those old machines, I was really enamored with some of the look and feel of some of those machines. Yeah, especially that orange terminal.
I did see you fondling the QL as well. So.
Oh yes, as well. Yeah, I did like the QL, and I've been having a look to see. I was thinking one of those old terminals is whether I could find one that was in a state of disrepair and bring some life back to it with a Raspberry Pi, but it's just finding the right one. But so I'm not sure whether maybe a Spectrum or something like that. But I just like that sort of that. To me, it looks sci-fi, and I think it's because I'm thinking that one that you were playing on.
The orange one,
Yeah, the orange one.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, isn't it? Because even though it's a machine that's 50 odd years old, I'm guessing, it did have that 70s sci-fi look to it that obviously, that Space 1999 kind of.
Yeah. So, or even I think you actually kind of put your mind as well of the some of the more recent Marvel fare like Loki as well. Kind of that kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going to share my screen to show
It's the one with me having eaten all the pies. I'm afraid you didn't.
I was going to refrain from showing. I was going to show the one, but oh, there we go. I just had a white screen. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit blurry, this one, but yeah, I love that sort of keyboard effect and orange monitor. So
it's blurry. Was that taken with the Duo, perchance?
No, it wasn't. That was that was on the Note. That one, but yeah, the blue ones I'm not as keen on, but that white and orange looks fantastic. But I think that was a terminal that was actually, we didn't go into too much detail when we talked about it, but that was a terminal, wasn't it? That was,
yes,
it was an authentic terminal, but it was connected up to a Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi was acting as the host.
That's correct. Yes, the switch box you can see on the right of it, the kind of base switch box, would switch it over to being a terminal for, I think it was a Pi Zero, he said, or it could run from that bank of massive beige boxes in the background. You can see that there are 5 boxes. I think it can run from those as well. But while we were there, they were just running it from the Pi, which of course I had no idea at all they were doing that. It was just great.
And that's an amazing thing, isn't it, to show actually, to highlight that those big bank of machines there, we've got 5 cabinets full of equipment, actually is doing the same thing as a Raspberry Pi Nano or Zero, Raspberry Pi Zero.
And probably less as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing, isn't it? I think I saw it today. I think today is one of the anniversaries of the Cray. I can't remember. Was it what year it came out? But it was today. It's on this day anyway, and it was something like the most powerful computer of all of anything at the time when it came out. And it's, of course, now it's my I bet my Galaxy Bud headphones has got more technology and more processing power.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what the museum's great for showing. You can go in a room like this office one, and look at this computer room of the 70s, and or the Decatron with its thousands of little mechanical dials and things like that. And then you go into the microcomputer era, and then of course you go on to VR, and you're just seeing all this technology just rapidly shrink down in a relatively short period of time.
Absolutely, yeah. But it is brilliant. I mean, again, I've not been to the National Museum of Computing before, and I honestly can't recommend it enough. And also the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. They were really fascinating. Like you said, any age group could go, and it's well worth looking at. And of course, we got to see Windows 1 working as well.
Yes, Windows 1.03 running on the RM Nimbus.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, it was a really good trip, and I really do recommend anyway. We're going to have some we should hopefully have someone from the National Museum of Computing to join us as well on the show to talk about how you can actually get that down there. But if you're in that southeast area, and the other thing I should say about it as well, which makes it so great, is we drove in after I found the entrance, but once you drive, you park right outside. So if you've got young kids or disabilities or whatever, you are literally parked outside the door and into the museum. So even if you're traveling from a fair distance, you've not got to think about parking in Cambridge or anything like that, or Milton Keynes or anything. When you get there, you just get there and get in there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, really, really well done that, actually, because it's certainly in Cambridge parking can be an absolute nightmare in that place. But yeah, it was great. Just basically drive up, park up, get out, and you're done. So great for accessibility. So great for accessibility. There's there are no steps to get into them either. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so they're really fully accessible, both inside, getting in there, and when you're in there, fully accessible as well. And they really made it nice and easy and an enjoyable day, and we spent ages at both places, and probably could have spent that time again. So yeah, really enjoyed those couple of days, and very nice to catch up as well, which was good.
Definitely.
So while we were, so one of the things that we'll talk about new builds of Windows 10, but I want to talk about what we've both been playing with. I think perhaps inspired by that place as well. It was Raspberry Pis, and I know you started, and we've both been playing with Raspberry Pi. So how are you doing with Raspberry Pi and Windows 11?
It's working perfectly, and I've had no problems at all with it. It's installed the Windows 11 build okay. It took the Windows 11 update, the 22.0.0.65, which came out last week. It took that as well, no problems at all, and it's also running the Office, the ARM 6064 version of Office, and I have to say it's smooth enough that it's almost a daily driver. I mean, it's a little bit sluggish here and there. Edge is particularly slow, but other things seem to work really well. How about you, Ian?
Well, that's right. Well, and you're running this on a Pi 400.
Yes, I am. I'm running on a Pi 400. Which I recommend because it's got the highest base clock speed. I mean, obviously you can have a clock Pi, so it's got the highest base clock speed, so that does seem to help as well. And it's a very up to date set of firmware.
Yeah. So well, I've got. I think my biggest problem is the 2 gig Raspberry Pi 4 is the problem.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm amazed you've got as far as you have it. I mean, the Pi 400 is obviously 4 gig, and I couldn't imagine doing it less than 4.
Yeah. So I've been playing around, various degrees of success. I haven't actually got it up and running yet. Hence some other stuff I've got on the way. But with the 2 gig of RAM and the Pi, I had a lot of problems. First of all, I managed to chew up a few SD cards and literally physically destroy them. So it seems they're unrecoverable now. But 16 gig RAM SD card is no good. So I went on to a 32 gig, and I actually got Windows 11 working fine. But it's, for some reason, it took me a long time. First of all, I had to update the firmware of my Pi as well, because it was one of the original Pi 4s, and it wouldn't do the USB master boot record setup. So that was a problem. So I fixed that. And eventually where I got to with it is I installed Windows 11, got that working fine, but the base image without the cumulative upgrades. And the cumulative upgrades include the new settings, the new Action Center, and a lot of visual changes. Mm-hmm. But what it would do is it kept running out of memory, because the swap file, it just kept saying the swap file's corrupt and needs to be recreated. So you go, okay, it'd say, right, you need to restart, and then it would say the swap file's corrupt, and it was a never-ending loop. So and with only having 2 gig physical and no swap file, Windows won't run properly, and that turned out to be why I was getting errors on Windows Update, because it was running out of RAM. Yeah. And I created alternate drives, and I created a partition and moved the swap file to the extra partition. I moved it to a USB stick, I moved it to an SD card, and it wouldn't do it. So I think the Pi 4 is probably 2 gig of RAM is no good on it. What I did do is I got a USB drive, a 128 USB drive that I found hanging around. It's a little USB stick, that I used as well, which actually worked quite good. But anyway, so I thought I'd try to tackle it another way and put Windows 10 on it, and then upgrade that to Windows 11. And Windows 10 works fine on it, actually. No swap file issues at all. So I've got and I really struggled to get Windows 10 to work on a Pi before. So I don't know how this time it worked first time. So Windows 10 worked fine. It would do the upgrade, but then of course it fails the validation. I think for having 2 gig of RAM as well as processor and everything else. So I think I need to give up on the 2 gig of RAM. So I've ordered
because I mean, when mine runs, it appears to be using 3 gigs from what I can see. And I think there are tweaks. If you've got, say, an 8 gig Pi, you can tweak it so it uses more RAM. And definitely it does like its RAM. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I've got a 400 coming, which you've been telling me for about a week and a half to order.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you will thank me for it. It's a wonderful machine of the 400 because it's the computer in a keyboard. And since we've just been to all these retro museums where there are lots of computers and keyboards, it's a natural progression.
Yeah, and what I've ordered as well is a 128 gig what was it, NVO RAM, SSD RAM.
Oh yeah.
And a little USB 3 adapter for it. So it'll be nice and fast, because that's the other thing I noticed, because it's using it's going to use a lot of swap file. Then that fast disk will make a difference. So I've got this as well. So this is the fastest. This should be faster than an SD card.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine, and that will be, because I always found with Windows, the faster your hard drive is, it sounds obvious, but the better your experience is, and that really makes more difference than processor or the amount of RAM you've got. Just getting that fast SSD really makes a difference. So I've gone what I hope is the fastest way for SSD. So that's my plan anyway. So hopefully they'll come this week, and I'll have one of those. I'll have that up and running, and then of course I can just swap out the SSD for whatever I feel like, other operating systems, when I'm ready. Because what I have been playing with and got working this week, because I thought, well, I'll give up with that thing, I'll try something else, is RetroPie. Have you tried that?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Obviously, with RetroPie, that you do have the whole issues around ROMs. But yes, it's a very neat tool for emulating old. I use it mainly for old arcade games that you can't play anymore. But yes, it can do an awful lot, can't it?
Yeah, because you remember when we were talking about, I've got that Bluetooth Spectrum keyboard, USB Bluetooth keyboard, and I couldn't get Fuse on the Raspberry Pi to run full screen. But of course, with RetroPie, it does run full screen, because it's the full, the RetroPie, if anybody's seen this, it's an add-on for the Raspberry Pi, or for there's various versions of it, but there is a specific build for the Raspberry Pi that boots into it, and presents you with you can scroll through different platforms. So I've got ZX Spectrum, I installed DOSBox, I've got MS-DOS, and I installed MSX as well, just for a laugh. So I've got MSX and Amiga as well. So I can go through these, but you like you said, you've got to get your ROMs or your applications for, in terms of Spectrums, the tape files. But you just dump the tape files into the right folder, and then when you fire this up, you're presented with, you go to the Spectrum section, and then all the games are there, and you just choose which one you want, or you can just go straight to single player basic, and it works brilliantly. Full screen, supports Kempston joystick, and you could, I think you can even emulate things, can't you? So you could get, say, an Xbox controller and make it emulate a Kempston joystick, or you can have it as a Sega Mega Drive, or a Nintendo, whatever. There's thousands of different platforms in there, isn't there, that you can play with?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so much stuff in there, and it's got a very, very polished front end as well. It's a really good tool.
In fact, I'd describe it, the closest thing, if anybody's never used it, is something like Kodi, XBMC, that kind of front end.
There you go, back a bit.
Yeah. Kind of that media front end that you would have had if you were building a Kodi media player with Raspberry Pi, where it kind of takes over the Raspberry Pi and Linux is in the background. Well, this is the kind of same thing, but for running these emulators. I got the Amiga emulator installed, but it kept crashing, so I'm not quite sure what I've done yet. So I need to work out. I didn't spend much time on that. I made sure I got the Spectrum emulator working first. But fantastic. And of course, it's in the background, it's using Fuse, and I've done a lot of fiddling around with Fuse in the past, so that's the Spectrum emulator. But there's loads on there. As I was curious, I saw MSX. I thought, I want to play an MSX. You can do that. So
yeah,
like you said, and on what especially when I get the 400 with the built-in keyboard, I just have that on an SD card, that image, and then it's an emulator, and then I take that out and put the Windows drive on there, and it's a Windows 11 machine. Well, that's the idea anyway. So.
Well, yes, that's one of the great things I've always liked about these Pis is the removable storage. So I've got SD cards with various emulators on them. So my Pi 400 can be at once a TI-99 and then a BBC Model B and a Spectrum. But I like to have the SD cards completely separate, so I get this full-on experience that boots straight in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's brilliant. It works really well. That's what I quite like that RetroPie it's one step on top of that. So you boot into that and then just pick your platform that you want to go into. So yeah, so I could have like a Windows 10 drive, I could have a Windows 11, I can have this RetroPie and just choose what I want.
Sure.
But what I think would be nice fun though is to get one of these old computer cases and maybe build that in. But the portability of the form factor of that one, that orange one that I did like, is not ideal. So I don't think I would be lugging that one around with me. So I think something like the Spectrum form factor or the wedge form factor is probably the best one. But maybe that's what I'll use my 2 gig Pi 4 for, and keep the 4 gig one for the Windows stuff. But it's quite interesting. Been playing around with the because it's not I would say Windows isn't, before people ask, Windows isn't supported on the Raspberry Pi. Microsoft don't provide you any tools for this. This is all through the various communities, and I would say just Google it or Bing it if you want. But there's lots of guides on how to do this, and none of it's illegal software. We're not downloading hacked code or compromised code.
I don't think. I mean, there is the issue, isn't there, of where you get the Windows, because it does. You need a Windows Insider ISO. So I think you probably need to be on the Insider program. And of course, I don't know if you encountered this, but in order to make Windows behave once it's installed, you do have to activate it. At least that's what I found. And I had an annotation code, and then I was able to join it to the Insider program and make it do all its stuff. But I think in all these cases, the issue of the Windows license itself is perhaps a problematic part. I'm afraid I don't know enough on that.
Yeah. What I would say is you don't want to download from unknown sources, where there are a few tools out there that help you get these things directly from Microsoft. That's, but I certainly wouldn't be putting any production machines, or you shouldn't be, certainly something you shouldn't be paying money for any of these things.
No, I mean, it's very much just a because you can, as opposed to
exactly.
It's particularly useful. It does work well, I have to say, and I'll give immense credit to the community who've built the drivers and made this work, because you do obviously realise when you're running it, Windows 11 and I suppose 10.2 does run in test mode, which means of course drivers aren't signed by Microsoft, so it is completely unsupported. Again, if you have problems, then on your own head be it. You certainly shouldn't be using this sort of thing for any production workloads. And as we know, in theory, come October time, I think it's going to be October when Windows 11 comes out, Microsoft will stop this working. Yeah,
but it's certainly good fun to do, and it always and for me, when something doesn't work is when I really enjoy it, because that's when you get the challenge, and that's where I spent home alone a few evenings last week. I spent a lot of time fiddling around with this because I had the time and the inclination, and I think if it had worked first time, I would have been a bit disappointed. So I'm glad it's.
And I say hurrah for tinkerers.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's what got me into this thing anyway. Tinkering with ZX81 programs that didn't work and trying to fix them. So that's where I started. And I'm still blaming Gary for some of those codes that I had to type in. I'm sure I typed in a game listing of one of these magazines that he says it's my typing. I say it's his listing, but. I don't think
that's how I learned the code too, trying to debug those magazine listings, because there must be some critical line that was missing or hadn't been put on the page. Yeah, I remember those very well.
And the funny thing, it was always the month after, wasn't it? It was the apology and the corrections.
Exactly. Which was too late.
Yeah, I spent 4 weeks trying to get this to work. And then of course. I'd spend ages working, and I'd say to my mum, Dad, look at this that I've got working, and they're totally unimpressed. Which is a bit like now, really, when I get anything working with a Pi or something like that, I say, look at this, get the same look.
Well, RetroPie will be a whole new world of tinkering for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think now I was looking at whether I could 3D print a case. I know someone with a 3D printer, so I was thinking. Actually, there are some nice little Raspberry Pi cases that are 3D printed, but they're kind of miniature replicas. So you can get like a Commodore 64 or a Spectrum or an Atari, but they're little miniature ones. But I don't want the miniature ones. I want it to look like a full-size one.
Well, you can normally buy dead gear from eBay, where it's sold, it's not working, it strictly guts out. But I did always look at trying to see if it would make a Pi work inside a TI-99 console, but the problem was I didn't have any that I could sacrifice.
Yeah, and it's the keyboard scanning is the hard thing. You've got to use an Arduino to read it and everything else.
Yeah,
I think what I'm going to do, I've got this Bluetooth one, so the keyboard and this is handled. I think there's probably some space in this where I could put a Pi inside there, but it's a bit tight. But what I was thinking of is getting an old broken microdrive, which is all of them, and put the Pi maybe in microdrive.
You'll get letters for that.
Well, mine's over there. It does work actually every now and then, but I haven't fired it up for a year or so. But yeah, I'm sure it does. The QL one I did actually get working in the end. So my QL is working at the moment, but I've no monitor to put it on. And when we had the guest on the show explain how to do that, but it was quite complicated. So I need to. It's another rabbit hole to go down. I think that one. But anyway, it's good fun. So so thanks, Richard. You pushed me into. I was quite happy to play with my 2 gig one, and now you've made me get 4 gig one with the keyboard and a 128 gig SSD on it.
There we go. But you'll be much happier with that. Much happier.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I will, and then I'll be showing people, and they'll all have that same look at me. But if it works, look at the price. I think you got 60 something quid for the Pi 400. I think the drive was 32 quid or something, 5 quid for the adapter cable. So
yeah,
less than 100 quid, you're getting a potential Windows computer
until October.
Yeah, until October. But then I put Windows 10 on it because I know that works. But then there'll be something else to hack about and play about with, won't I'm sure.
I guess so. I've got to say, if you're in the market for a Pi 400, I'd also definitely go more for the full kit that comes with like the computer, the keyboard, but also a mouse and a power supply and that all important video cable as well, because they're all extra things which do mount up. And you also, if you're new to it, they comes with a really good book as well. Yeah,
it's funny actually. We were talking about books when we were at the museum, talking about the manuals that came with them. That was that's always useful. That little cable is quite important. I mean, I've already got one, but it's the micro HDMI to HDMI. Right, you do need one of them with the new Pis because they don't have the full size one, and they're missing the audio port actually, which is a bit of a shame as well.
That's a real shame. I think that's a real omission on their part. I mean, the justification given was that it plugs in the TV now. It's designed to be. If you need audio, you plug your headphones into your TV. But it seemed to be a bit of a miss. Or you use a USB headset. But yeah, seemed to be a shame, really. But yes, it's easy. Use Bluetooth headphones.
Would the USB-C headphone adapters that you get for phones work? I guess it should do.
I guess so. I mean, it's got full. Just look at the back of my one here, actually. So so you've got the.
It's not got USB-C, has it? It's got
your full size USB-A size and USB 3. So USB-C wouldn't work.
Yeah, you need to back to full size one.
Yeah, it gets its power through a USB-C plug, but I don't think you can necessarily plug into that. So you would need to plug them into the USB-A sized things, or I think Bluetooth works as well. I think.
Yeah, Bluetooth does. Yeah, I'll have to have a play around with that. Depends what I do with it next. Talking of Windows 11, we got a new build last week, 222.0.0.65, and confirming something I kind of guessed, but a nice little update, but a cumulative upgrade and not a full build.
Yes, so it came down really fast, didn't it?
Yeah, and I've suspect, and I've had no confirmation on this, but this is my theory, is that 222000 is the finished build of Windows 11.
Okay, so expecting there
And
to
it's
that number, that minor number to keep counting up.
yes. Yeah, that's right, because they've decoupled a lot of the user interface stuff from the core build now, so they don't have to keep delivering it through a full build now. And we'll have the 20. I think we'll get, this is again all speculation. I have no insider knowledge on this. I think we'll get 21H2 for Windows 10.
Yep.
And which will be the whatever the last build was for Windows 10 that we got on the fast ring or dev channel. And I think we'll have 21H2 for Windows 11 being 22200 dot something. You know, we're on 6.5 now, so maybe like into the 200s by then. And that will be our build. That will be our second half builds for this year. So we'll get Windows 10 one and the Windows 11.
Because that's not going to confuse anybody.
Yeah, because I think they've tested all the 20. What we were testing before as a Windows Insider on the dev channel is 21H2. My theory is anyway, and I think that's what we'll get. So I think we'll get in October. So maybe it'll be the Windows 10 October 2021 update, and at the same time we'll get Windows 11 launched. I suspect for a while we're going to get at least a yearly update of Windows 10, even if it's incremental. You know, it might not be a full build, but we've got to 25, haven't we, for support?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because presumably that's going to. I mean, are they going to keep adding new features to Windows 10, or when it feels like it's almost the first time that we're going to have two versions of Windows running in parallel, and both getting new features. I mean, in the past we've obviously had service packs and things, but do you reckon they're going to keep adding new features to Windows 10, or it's now just going to go into straightforward service pack mode after 21H2? Because there are new things that are in the fast ring, or were in the fast ring, which presumably are going to make their way through at some point, or not. Maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah. But presumably after 21H2 of Windows 10, do you think they're going to go for just a straightforward servicing cycle, and it's just going to it'll be like Windows 7 was to Windows 8, except obviously Windows 7 lasted a lot longer.
Yeah, I think so. A bit like we do now with the on a patch Tuesday, you'll get updates for 21H1, but you'll also get updates for 20H2 and so on. So yeah, I think they'll get those updates. So there'll be fixes and security updates, and I'm guessing that 21H2 will be the last feature update. But that's not to say they won't do it. But that's probably how they did. That probably it, I would have thought. And then it depends on how enterprises go. I mean, if enterprise is sticking on Windows 10, then they might have to look at that. I think that's going to be the challenge with Windows 11. Consumers will be fine. You'll get a new PC that comes with Windows 11, or if you've got an HM or a recent spec machine, you'll get offered the upgrade. But I think getting enterprises to switch to 11 is going to be the challenge, even though it's not under the hood type. Lots of core changes. It's the UI changes and the education that goes with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think as far as enterprises are concerned, it will be the next upgrade wave. I mean, I've spoken to some vendors like Dell, and they're thinking the upgrade wave will probably happen at some point in 2022, because obviously that they've had the wave of Windows 7 to Windows 10. They've had the pandemic wave, and now they've got the Windows 11 wave coming. So it's almost like every couple of years they're being given another lump of cash from people having to upgrade. So that looks like when enterprises may well press the button to start the upgrade process once Windows 11 has stabilized. So perhaps 2022, as you say, consumers will start getting machines from October onwards, I suppose, with it preloaded.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't think you'll get the old downgrade rights type stuff that you used to get with Windows 8 when you could downgrade to Windows 7. That's not going to be a thing, is it? I don't think it'll just be it comes with Windows 11 and that's it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do kind of miss the grand experiment of Windows as a service, where they were just going to have Windows 10 being updated forevermore. I think that would have been nice, really, to have had that one consistent experience. Just keeps updating. But instead, they appear to have decided they've got to draw a line under Windows 10 and create Windows 11. I mean, I'm not really clear why they couldn't simply have called Windows what is Windows 11. I mean, it's still Windows 10 under the hood, as I understand it. So obviously, it's an enhanced version, but I'm not sure why that couldn't have been the next version of Windows 10. I really don't understand why it's gone the way it has.
Well, it's I suppose at some point they draw a line under it for security and updates and everything else. But I think primarily it's marketing, isn't it? You've got to, I think, as a marketing department, Microsoft's marketing and the OEMs, they want something to sell and brand and trying to sell Windows. The new Windows 10 or whatever they would call it, Windows 10 2021 or something, is just a harder sell than it is saying, look, we've got a brand new OS. So I can see exactly why they've done it. I mean, it just gives them a lot of marketing opportunities and things to build some build a bit of enthusiasm and I mean just things like, you know, if I wanted to do how-to videos. You know, I've done every how-to video that for Windows 10 that I can possibly think of, but now I can redo them all with Windows 11. So it's a rejuvenation of the PC market a little bit as well. And we know, you know, as insiders or enthusiasts, we know under the hood it's essentially the same thing with the new UI. But as we said before, the UI is what people see. They don't get to see the under the hood stuff. That's you work at Microsoft on some of this clever plumbing stuff, which is amazing and probably where all the real work is. But then when, you know, somebody puts a rounded corner on a button, it's like, oh, look at that, so we've got nothing new. But it's just the way we are, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to check actually. Well, I'll check it in a sec. Whether we've got a new version number. You know, when you go into a command prompt and do is it still the same version? But I shall tell you because I'll check that in a minute. But in terms of,
I'm speaking to you from my Mac Mini, which unfortunately I don't have Windows on. So,
oh, how dare you?
I know Jason would be so pleased.
Yes, he would. Yeah. So it comes. Well, when you do it gives you the build number, doesn't it? But I thought there's a way of seeing the version that it reports back, isn't it? 6 point.
I know.
Is it WinVer?
I know the first one did say 10.2200. Or sorry, 22,000.53 at one point. That was because that did make me smile.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This actually, when you do WinVer, it gives you version 21H2.
There we go.
Windows 11. Yeah, so it is. But I want to, you know, that when it reports back, it's like version 6.2 something, isn't it?
Oh,
when
yeah.
You get the build.
The actual Windows.
I can't remember how you get that. Yeah, we'll have to check that on a future show. But in terms of the actual build that we got last week, nice and easy with that cumulative upgrade, which was quite nice. But a few little bits and pieces.
There was natter on it, so it was quite small.
Yeah, you got the search box. Search box. Well, you've now got a search box in the start menu.
Yeah, but is that doing anything new? I think Basics just put the search box there, and when you type into it, it just flips to the ordinary search panel, as I understand it. And apart from that, there's not a huge amount. There's some battery stuff. No. They reckon they've fixed the print nightmare exploit in this version of Windows, as they've had to everywhere else. It's taskbar thing.
Yeah, but does it work with Zebra printers?
Well, I'm not even going to go down the path because it's. I mean, it's not been they've not covered themselves in glory with this particular one. Unfortunately, you do have to feel bad for Microsoft because obviously it was accidentally disclosed early before they're going to fix that. But it just looks like it's another fix, and you just know we're going to get another fix that's going to come out at some point. And oh dear, I know it's just all feels a bit not properly tested. But there we go. It's one of those things. And just as a reminder, if you are using a domain controller that prints, using a print spool service, and you've not done the patching and the changes that Microsoft have recommended, probably best to turn off that spooler service quite quickly.
Yeah, I did notice that was one of them. To turn off the print spoolers, but I'd envision say 300 people saying can't print, and you say, well, Microsoft said turn the print spooler off, so I've turned it off. Like, well, yeah, but I need my print now.
Yeah.
Well, Microsoft said.
Well, exactly, but it'll work for local printing. But I did wonder how many enterprises actually have domain controllers still using print spool and print with locally connected printers, and how many have now just got network connected printers, full stop.
Yeah, most are networked, but you still do. I still have some needs for them. So I did have a couple of effective machines, but we tend not to have that role anymore. So you wouldn't have a combined role. You used to always have them combined. You have a one office server, which was a domain controller and print server and file server, but we tend not to use that sort of style anymore. But there are a couple of occasions where I've seen it in use, and yeah, it's just the mitigation, which is not to use it, is kind of hard to explain to users. And then especially if you put the patch on and say, well, the mitigation, we've got rid of the mitigation. Now you can turn the spooler on, but it doesn't work with Zebra printers, which is the one you use. So another week, I'm sure you'll be fine. The problem is when they do that is when I speak to colleagues in the IT industry is, oh, Microsoft messed up print spoolers again. So the level, there's a bit of distrust to Windows Update. So when they do an emergency update, most of the reaction of various people across different companies is, well, I won't install it straight away because it's going to break something. And it did. But then that means that people don't install the security update straight away because they're frightened of it breaking something. And, in this case, proved correctly. So it means that people don't react as quickly as Microsoft would like, because they've not got a trust in it, in the fix.
Yep.
Anyway, back to this build. So yeah, there was lots of little fixes and a few little bits and pieces. There was a little slight thing for tablet or small screen users as well, with the some of the overlays in portrait mode have been improved. The snap overlays, but it doesn't work that well actually. The snap stuff, when you're using touch in portrait mode, doesn't come up. You can't hover with your finger, so I've yet to be able to use that. So I did record a separate video. I'm not sure we talked about this before, about how using Windows 11 on a tablet, and so far it looks good. It's better than Windows 10 was, but not as good as Windows 8. I don't think we'll ever get an OS that's quite a Windows OS that was quite as tablet friendly as Windows 8. But we they rolled back from that because I don't think we'll ever get back to that. But I'm using it on the Surface Go, and which is unsupported because doesn't meet the requirements. But that's fine for now. We're in testing. But I do like using it on here. It's definitely a nice. It feels lighter. I think I mentioned on the show I've did a PC reset, and since doing that, it's flying along now. So I'm quite happy with my little Surface Go. So let's hope Microsoft has something fun and interesting in an October Surface event when they launch Windows 11. It'd be nice to see a new form factor, maybe a Neo running Windows 11.
Yes, a Neo. That would be interesting. A Neo running Windows 11 on ARM.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So yeah, I think you said that now I don't need to buy a Windows ARM device because I'm going to get the Raspberry Pi 400.
Exactly right. Well, up until October, it's this stuff done fine. Everything works. Apart from the only thing that's a bit iffy, I'd say, is Edge, and that's purely because it's really slow on this. But again, it's basically a machine that's not designed to run to run Windows 11 on ARM. So that it works at all is cheap enough.
Yeah, definitely. So I think these builds are working quite nicely, and if you can get that build installed on your Pi, you'll also get all these changes as well, which is pretty amazing, really. I don't know whether anybody from Microsoft has ever thinking about running Windows 11 on a Pi.
Oh, I bet they have. I mean, I know of a few Microsoft engineers who are massive fans of the Raspberry Pi. So I would think unofficially there's all kinds of things going on behind the scenes. It's just if one can make the business case for actually doing official drivers or official support, which I get a feeling probably not, but we'll see.
Yeah. Now, want to make sure I have time to mention you. I was very envious of you this week because you went on a press trip to a place that I've been to a few times, and really very envious. So where were you this week?
Oh yes. So I got to go to the Goodwood Festival of Speed and play with some of the toys in the Future Lab, which was it was the media day, but it was I think it's one of the pilot events in the UK, which means that it was almost like going back to the time before the pandemic. It was very interesting. But yes. So saw a few things. It's a shame Gary isn't here because there were some very interesting electric cars there. Obviously, Goodwood Festival of Speed is a petrol head's dream come true. There's so many wonderful vehicles there. But in the future section, there were some fascinating electric cars or electric car concepts, which two of which actually jumped out at me. One was the Trigo, and one was a Microlino. I don't know if you've heard of those at all.
No, I didn't, but I did watch some of the highlights. I saw some electric vehicles flying up the hill climb.
Oh yeah, I mean the racing ones are insane. No, these are more aimed at consumers. Right. And I think they're both moving from concept to production next year. So it's not bad. Yeah. So the Trigo, it's a very interesting business model for an electric car because the way it works, you never have the car. And I think we've talked about the idea of renting cars and things before. What you do is it's like a two-seater inline car, so it looks a bit like, do you remember those BMW motorbikes from a few years back?
Yeah.
It was like an enclosure around you. It's the same here, except it's got four wheels. And so they're designed to tool around the city at about sort of, I think about 25 miles an hour. And they can lean. And then when they leave the city, then the wheelbase extends. So it widens. And I think it goes up to about 90 kilometers an hour. It's quite cool. But the neat thing about it, obviously, it's electric, is it sounds like they're going for a kind of ride sharing type model. So what happens is the machines themselves are just parked up around the city. You would use an app on your phone and say, I want to ride now, please. And then one will drive itself to you, or rather, it won't drive itself to you. A person remotely will drive it to you, and then you'll get in and you'll drive off. So it's done by remote control via, cellular networks. I can't imagine what could go wrong with that. And then once you've had your fun driving it around, you get out of it, and then it goes back to whoever's got it goes back to this bank of people lurking in an office somewhere abroad or Wales or wherever, who are responsible for driving it. So instead of having the Uber driver in the car, the Uber driver effectively is sat in an office somewhere steering these things around when you want in them. So I thought that was quite an interesting concept, really. Yeah,
well, it is. Yeah, it's a bit like when they do the drones, but a little vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. So, and obviously, they're not making pretense of saying it's autonomous or it's self-driving. It's not. There's a person actually driving it when it's coming to you. It's just that person is driving it effectively by remote control. And I believe they also do things like they'll daisy chain up as well, and they've got I think it's not a colossal range. I think it's only about I can't remember. I think it's about 80 kilometers or so. It's not massively far. But the theory is, again, they would go back and then get charged up. At the end of each day, they drive back to their station, or they're not charged up. They swap out the battery pack. So right. It's very quick to change them out. Or they'll have vans that go around that simply plug in new power packs to these things. So yeah, as a concept, I found it quite interesting. And I think they're going to be piloting them probably around Milton Keynes, I believe. So when you do your visit to the National Museum of Computing, you can have a go at one of these, perhaps.
Yeah, fantastic.
So yes, that was cool. But the other thing that really appealed to me, and this is just because I just like classic cars. Do you remember the bubble cars that had the doors that opened up in front of you? Well, I think it's a Swiss company. It's a Microlino car was also done, and that's also about to go into production as well. And it's a wonderful little thing. It's a four-wheeler, not a three-wheeler, and it looks like that car, the bubble cars of old, except of course it's got it's an electric two-seater vehicle. It can do about 90 kilometers a mile an hour, maximum speed. So it's not a speed demon. It'll do about 125 or 200 kilometers of range. So it's designed to be a city car. But the key thing about it is you can buy one for I think about 12,000 euros. So that's relatively inexpensive in terms of electric cars. So you think at that point you think, yeah, you could probably afford to get one of those, and if you drive mainly around your town and only occasionally need your big car for long journeys, then you could simply use one of these and have effectively almost free motoring. So yeah, and the best thing about it, appeals to me being a terrible driver, is that you can park the things against the curb, so you don't have to, so they can fit into incredibly small spaces. So, but again, only two-seater. But I really liked it. I came away really impressed with it, actually.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I would have been more. I think I was seeking out the McLaren hybrid. I think that's more my area.
Oh yes,
which is a hybrid, but it's very nice.
I had Gary on my shoulder saying, "Richard, look at the practical cars, not the mad cars."
Yeah, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself but go and look at it. I think it's a new 6 something. I can't remember the name of it, but I saw it going up the hill on Sunday on Sky, and it looked very nice. So I think, in fact, it set the fastest time.
They're incredibly fast, because, as Gary will attest, the electric cars are so fast. I mean, just insanely quick, really. I think the bigger challenge now is getting the power down the tarmac. They're just so fast. Really good. Although there was one other thing which might be a bit more within reach, which was I also had to go on a mind-controlled scale electric. Now this is proper. This is proper tinkering stuff, because I spoke